Hey everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you a few tips on how to use the LMC console, which is a plugin we have through IK Multimedia. The Samson brothers from Cape Town, South Africa, my homeland, have been gracious enough to let us use their music for these videos and demonstrations we make for you guys. So I'm going to make their song sound fantastic through this console and show you a couple of ways and tips and things you can do to get there. So come on around, join me, and let's check it out. First thing I'd like to do is check the song from top to bottom, take in the dynamic range, take in the level at which the mix was printed. I can see that there's a lot of headroom on this mix. So a very important part of where we're going to go is into the gain structure. We have an input drive, and then we also have the ability to adjust the makeup gain. So the balance between those two elements and the clip gain of the track and how it goes into the plugin is going to come into play. So first thing, in order to make those decisions, is to check it from top to bottom, feel the way the song swells, feel the way the intent of the mixer comes across, and from there we can start making decisions and see where to put this. So let's check it out, top to bottom, off the bat, and just the flat mix, no processing, nothing, at the same level it was submitted to us. So here goes.
All the colors, breathe in and out, live life how you wanna. All the love, passion, creation, with fear, no doubt. Leave behind the trails that led you down. So open up those eyes to beauty around. You got to feel alive, hearing the sound you hear from the birds and the words of love. Sing it to yourself, and I feel that self-love is all you need. Be conscious to beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love. Be conscious, be all of it. Love is in your sight and soul.
Wow, that's great. I love these guys. I love their performances. I love their messaging and their songs. I love their spirit. They're just beautiful human beings, nice guys. And, you know, that all actually goes into what we're talking about here, because as you make music, it's an expression of so much, you know, and there's a bond that needs to happen between the listener and the artist. And it's really important that whatever you do to music, that it falls into the realm of processing music, working on stuff, but, you know, making it sound like you were never there in the first place, to really let that music bloom and blossom. I've said this multiple times in different videos, and really a big part of being invisible and providing a service to the track, essentially providing a service to the fans and letting people connect with that music, is to understand the gain structure of the signal chain. Now, one of the things that happens on our console a lot, as I've spoken about in multiple videos, is when I have several compressors in the chain and there's a song with dynamic range like this, where, for instance, in the later part of the song where it drops out a lot of times the compressors will release and the output gain will continue to flourish. And so I have to then attenuate the input of the console to accommodate that. So to the untrained eye, it looks like I'm turning the song down, but in fact what I'm doing is I'm following the dynamic range. So this is an important point in what I'm about to do on the LMC here, because we actually built that functionality into the LMC. So you don't have to do that necessarily. You can get into automation, and if you want to take your overall track and duck it here and duck it there, that's fine. Understanding where you're doing it in the processing is important, because sometimes if you've got our LMC plugin going, you might want to also have another plugin. So, you know, just some salt and pepper, some seasoning. So, you know, like for instance, I've called up the fab filter here, and I may I put it there just in case I want to play with it, but may or may not use it. We'll see. So the first thing I want to do is I want to adjust the clip gain, and I want to do it visually. And it's just my style, just the way I work. You do not have to work like this. Once I get the clip gain to a point that visually it feels right, where there's no clipping and no compromise to that mix, I can then start with my processing. So that's just kind of a way that I do things. I do it on the analog console as well, like that. I'll bring up the mixes to a place where it feels right. And where does it feel right? Probably a dB or two of headroom from there. So I'm not compromising that mix in any way. So let's check it out.
Be all of it. Be all of it.
Okay, so what I'd like to do in this case, you can see I've got a pop rock setting set up. And that's not because I wanted a pop rock setting in the presets. That's just because that's how the plugin opened up. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into an EDM more glue setup. I'm going to check it out. And you know, you can try all of these different setups. And when we came up with Americana, classical, EDM, that kind of thing, you know, Americana, nice swampy tube limiters, classical, that's just more straight up, more solid state sound. EDM, same kind of thing. Little different, but a little more aggressive maybe. Hard rock, kind of a combo of tube limiter and solid state, you know, tube vibe with some punch to it. You know, hip hop's very similar to EDM. So you can try all of these different presets. And I spoke to a very high profile mixer the other day who got our plugin. And I assumed he was going to use EDM or hip hop or something like that because he's a hard hitting, heavy rock mixer. And he tells me that he likes Americana loose on his mixes. And, you know, I don't want to speak for him, so I don't want to say who he is, but his mixes are hard hitting, heavy rock songs that you've heard. And yet he likes this sort of tubey, vibey, swampy sound on his mixes. Maybe they offer just enough, you know, vibe to get a little bit of analog on there. So this came from an analog mindset. It came from the way we work, which is to ease the levels in and out of the swells so that you can maintain the dynamic range of the intent of the mixer. So let's start out EDM more glue. The input drive of the plugin is the input gain. I then have a push knob, which will, as you can see, push all the bands of the EQ on the front, and that's based on a tube EQ. So you want to start at 0 on that. And you know, you can adjust here, right here, you can see the chain. This is just a view of our desk that it came from. In this case, what I heard when I did that rundown was the song was heavily de-essed. Now, we have the de-esser here not as a de-esser per se, but more so that if we decide to push the EQ, and I'll explain that in a second, the gain structure going on around there, the song gets a little edgy at times when you do that. So you can adjust a de-esser as a high frequency limiter to kind of clamp down on that so you can get this really cool opened up analog sound without it sounding screechy and sawing your head off. Then you can also adjust the threshold on the solid state compressor right at the end of this particular chain in this preset, and the makeup gain. And the makeup gain at the end of the chain can be worked in correlation with the input drive, and there's your gain structure. It's very important to let all of these gain stages relax into each other. If you push it on the input, you're going to get too much processing. If you push it on the output, you're going to get not enough processing. If your clip gain is not high enough, you're just not going to get enough level in. It's a careful balance between clip gain and input drive. As I mentioned, my particular style and my preference is just to get a clip gain visually that feels like it represents the track well. Now that I've got a visual cue on the track, let's just check it for clips before we even go into processing.
See what you see. I only speak.
Okay, so I've decided in this case that because there's just a couple of peaks here in the big sections, that the clipping is going to be okay. I'm using my ears. I'm not going for clipping. I'm not looking for the track to clip, but I also want to get the most out of the track into the processing. And just having done this so many years, I understand where and how to clip. If you decide to clip, the best advice I can give you on that is just use your ears. Make sure you have a good set of monitors that you can really hear what's going on so that you do not alter that intent of the mixer. So, getting back to the music here, I want to see what this EDM More Glue sounds like on the track. So, just with the default settings, in and out, without anything, we're going to take a listen.
Love is all you need. Be conscious of beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love. Love is all you need. Be conscious of beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love.
Okay, this could be cool. It shows promise, but I'm going to just check out some presets that may be very wrong for this. So bear with me. Hang in there with me while I listen. Let's check it out.
The beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love. Be conscious. Be all of it. I feel.
Wow, I didn't expect that to work, but it actually sounds really cool. Let's check the More Glue one.
Love is all you need. Be conscious of beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love. Be conscious, be all of it. I feel that self-love.
Let's try pop rock, More Glue.
Is all you need. Be conscious of beauty in what you see.
Sounds a little more edgy to me. I kind of like the Americana vibe. Let's try jazz More Glue. I want to hear More Glue because the track is sort of sparse and I want to just bring everything together and gel it. It's not a dense track, but there's some cool punchy stuff going on there and some cool guitars that have a nice tone to them. I kind of want a glue of a compression, and I want to create kind of a denseness to it while letting the vocals really bloom out over top. I have no idea what jazz More Glue is going to sound like. Let's check it out.
Love is all you need. Be conscious of beauty in what you see.
All right, I can hear pretty quickly that I want to go back to Americana More Glue. I think that's the one I had. I like the More Glue vibe. So let's check it out in some of the other sections. I haven't adjusted the plugin at all yet. I'm just going through it, checking out the different presets.
Love is all you need. Be conscious of beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love. Be conscious.
I like that. Americana Loose Warmer. That's cool. That gives it, I can instantly hear it. I can put it on and hear it instantly. It gives a nice, 250 hertz, 300 hertz area of warmth, but keeps it open and lets that vocal sit on top of it. Brings some vibe to those guitars. Makes the track a little more dense. Now, there's a function here I just want to throw in and show you, a link function. Now, if there's a hard hit on one side, or now this track is pretty linear through there. When I say linear, I don't mean in the dynamic range. I mean, there's no real hard panned left or right activity. But if there was, and you wanted a compressor to grab the one side and not the other, you could unlink this plugin during that, using that function. So in this case, we'll keep it linked. We'll keep the compressors, everything working in stereo. So if something triggers it on the left, it's going to be on the right as well. So there's that functionality there. And what I'm going to look at as I start to adjust the Americana Loose Warmer preset is I'm just going to look at how much compression I'm getting on the output. I don't want to be more than 2 dB. I'd like to be 1 dB. Really, less is more. We've got a tube limiter, you can see in the chain here. We've got a solid state equalizer in conjunction with the tube equalizer, which is one of our cool analog tricks to get nice vibe, swampy stuff, and yet some punch. We can combine these two together to create that cool vibe, dense but yet punchy sound. In this case, we're doing it on this music. We do it on our analog console all the time. Solid state de-esser, just so that we can open it up and not let it get too brittle. And a solid state compressor at the end. So let's check it out. I'm going to go through more of the tune here and make some adjustments. And maybe I'll adjust the push function, which will bring all of the frequencies on the front panel equalizer up or down. We'll check it out, we'll see. But these are designed to work in conjunction with each other and are part of that tube equalizer on the front of the chain in combination with that solid state EQ. So again, all this stuff built into the presets, all the thinking done for you, so that you have to do very little. And if you want to put an EQ on top of that just to give it that final little thing, you can do that. A compressor, you can do anything you like. I'm just showing you stuff that I like and a guide on where to go and how to start and perhaps even how to finish if you like it. But let's see. I think this is going to do it. Here we go.
Feel that self-love is all you need. Be conscious to beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love. Be conscious, be all of it. Love is in your sight and soul. Yes, you are golden, so be great. Hearing the sound you hear from the.
So I can hear a little more vocal on these quiet sections with this preset.
Conscious of beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love. Be conscious, be all of it. Be all of it. Be all of it.
Starting to feel good. I've upped the input drive a little bit. I can see my compression levels at the end here feeling pretty good. And let's check this little section here.
Beauty in what you see. I'm only speaking these words of love. Be conscious, be all of it. For yourself, yeah, yeah. And I feel that self-love.
Okay, so where I ended up is I raised the overall clip gain 2 dB, which offers me a little bit of clipping, but I really checked it out using my ears and my experience to make sure that it doesn't disrespect the intent of the mixer. From there, I raised the input gain in the LMC console 0.5 of a dB, just to get a little more push into the processing. Left the output gain alone and left much of it alone. I didn't adjust the push function, which adjusts the tube EQ at the beginning of the chain, because I felt that the music really came to life and the vocal bloomed out of the mix. The mix got a little more dense. The guitars had a little more weight. Everything just felt right. So the gain structure is pretty on point right out of the starting gate. And on this plugin, you really don't have to push it too far. You don't have to go too far either way. The gain structure is so important. And when you get that right, less is more. The processing and the music really speaks. So in this case, there was some really terrific dynamic range on these mixes. And in some cases, as I mentioned earlier in the video, you would use automation, which we all know how to use, to maybe bring down those lower sections so that those limiters aren't releasing. But because I'm not pushing the limiter, I'm opting not to get into that automation. But just so that you know that you can, if you've got more push and that input gain on the plugin is pushing those limiters, those low sections might bloom and push out more than you want them to. So you can fix that with some automation within the plugin or within your workstation itself, your choice, and just follow that dynamic range. Make sure the intent of that mixer is intact. Cannot stress that enough. I've said it over and over. It's a very important factor that Once the mix is approved by the mixer and the artist, that our job is then to let that music bloom, make sure to leave that dynamic range intact, make sure that no clipping is audible and that type of thing. It's all a part of this. It's all been built into this on some level, but it requires a little bit of experience and thought process to get it right. So that's just one idea I've done for this song. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for watching our channel. Try your own out. Do anything. It's music. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want. Just make sure that that music jumps out of the speakers and your focus is on the right parts of that music, and all of the mixers and recording engineers and producers and artists are happy with the results. And we've done a lot of the thinking for you in this plugin. Check out IK Multimedia, the LMC plugin. Check out iLoud speakers at IK Multimedia, and we'll see you in the next video.